And welcome to the January 27th, 2021 meeting of the Goffstown Select Board. This is a special meeting. We've got one public item to deal with, and then we need to go into non-public briefly. So I want to start by calling the meeting to order, and I'll recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I just want to take a moment to talk about the announcement and the remote public participation part of tonight's meeting. In accordance with the Governor's Emergency Order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, the Goffstown Select Board will utilize the emergency meeting provisions of RSA 91A to conduct meetings through electronic means, while preserving, to the extent feasible, public's right to notice of such meetings and ability to observe and listen contemporaneously. This public access provided to the meeting provided by the telephone by calling the following number: 603-766-5646 and entering the participant code 785-645, followed by the pound sign. If there are any problems with access, members of the public experiencing problems are asked to call 603-384-3624 for assistance. And I just also want to make note that watching the meeting live on Goffstown Television Channel 22 or on GTV Facebook page, Facebook will not be monitoring for public participation during public comment. Residents interested in participating in public comment should call the public telephone access number. So we're going to get into the agenda this evening. First, I've got to take roll call. And remember, everything we do tonight has to be done by roll call. So I'll go down through the roll. Please state your name and affirm that you're the only one in the room listening and participating at this time. This is Collis Adams. There is no one else in the room with me. Kelly, are you on?
Kelly Boyer, no one in the room with me.
Thank you. And Peter?
Peter Georgiantis, no one's in the room with me.
Mark?
Mark LeMay, nobody in the room with me.
Thank you. Who else do we have with us tonight?
Chet Owen, no one in the room with me.
I'm sorry, Chet.
It's okay.
My apologies. Who else do we have, Derek, that we need to announce?
So, Collis, you have a handful of department heads. You have myself. You have Fire Chief Allard.
Yep.
You have Adam Jacobs. You have Gail Lebrecht is on as a minute taker, but she is also the chair of the Zoning Board of Adjustment. And then Tim Redmond is on from the Sewer Commission is on the call as well.
Okay, I certainly couldn't write down that list as fast as you were reading them, but can you all affirm that you are the only ones in the room participating in this call? I'm going to take that.
Gail Lebrecht, I am the only one in the room.
Thank you.
Ryan Allard, I am the only one in the room.
Thank you.
Adam Jacobs, I'm the only one in the room.
Thank you.
Tim Redmond, I'm the only one in the room.
Thank you.
Danielle, do you want to?
Hi, Danielle.
Hi there, Danielle Besora. I'm the only one in the room.
Thank you.
And then Derek Horn, I'm the only one in the room. The only other on are GTV for the purpose of broadcasting this meeting.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm here too. Eric Smino, GPD.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, Chief.
All right.
Did I miss anybody else?
That's
Okay,
it.
great. Okay, great. Then let's just get into the agenda. Like I say, we've got one item in their public portion of the meeting tonight. That is a discussion regarding public meetings and facility use of town hall. So there's been some talk about how people should participate in these meetings, whether they should be done remotely, they should be done in person, or should be at a hybrid with a combination of the two. So I'm going to open it up to members of the select board initially for some comments, and then I'll ask for comments from other participants on this call. So who'd like to kick it off for the select board? Somebody want to make some initial comments and voice their opinions? Chet, I see your hand up. Go right ahead.
Mr. Chair, I just want to make a general comment that we are currently, as everyone knows, this is not a secret, in the midst of a pandemic. There are separate strains that are affecting people that are widely reported as more contagious. We have hundreds of deaths in New Hampshire each week. My basic statement on this, and I'll have more to say later, I'm sure. My basic statement on this is just because we may not have seen an issue in one meeting traced back does not mean it's not possible in the future. So my point would be, if we have the opportunity to meet remotely, we have the ability to do so.
Okay, thanks for that comment, Chet. Peter, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
My question, Carlos, would be, do we need to make a motion on what we want to do before we get into and open it up to discussion? More of a matter of procedure. I'm not,
I don't know, what would the motion be for, Peter?
well, would say we had a motion that all meetings be done remote at this time. And my
Well,
motion would also include a dead date or a review date of 7/1.
Carlos, this is Mark.
Hang on, Peter, is that a motion that you're making?
Okay, I'll make, if that, my question was procedurally, do we need to have a motion before we start discussing something?
No, I think the only time we'd need a motion if someone's willing to put forward a motion for some action for the board to take action. But for now, I'd kind of like to keep it informal so that we can hear folks. I know there's folks who have different opinions on what we should do, and I just kind of like to hear from everybody at this point. So I think
Can I ask a question then, Carlos?
sure, absolutely.
I'm really not sure what kind of a meeting we're holding here. Is this a selectmen's meeting? Or is
Yes.
it a meeting inviting everybody in?
No,
Or is this, I'm not really sure what kind of a meeting this is posted as.
No, it's a select board meeting. It's been posted as such.
Okay, so these people that are speaking are coming in the public comment or under what
Well,
authority?
as I said, Peter, right now, I'm opening up the select board members for the select board members to provide their input first. Then I'll open it up for public comment for sure. But again, I want to hear from board members first. Peter, what are your thoughts before we make a motion?
Well, my thoughts are just like I brought up the other day, that we really need, we have the ability, we've spent the money, we have the software to do these meetings remotely, and we should be taking advantage of it at this time. I see absolutely no reason to bring in people from the outside if we don't have to. And that means there's no reason to bring people into the meeting room and not only potentially infecting the town hall, but also the personnel that have to attend. So that's my feelings at this point. I may want to add something later, but right now that's where I stand.
Yep, that's good, Pete. Let me just go around and get some initial reaction from other board members. Kelly, what do you think?
I am of the strong belief that we're responsible for general public safety and our staff in town hall. And I think it's the responsible thing to do to mitigate as much potential interaction as we possibly can. We know town hall is open, so there are still people coming into town hall, but I think that, everybody who's at these meetings plays a very important role in our community, and it's in our best interest. And in my opinion, it's our responsibility to make those interactions as safe as possible. So I am certainly in favor of moving to completely virtual because, we've been operating that way just fine. Most other boards and committees are operating that way as well. And, I would prefer to be better safe than sorry at this point. We've had, some issues without getting into any sort of information on our staff, but we want to keep them as safe as we possibly can, just as much as everybody else.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure the statement about most other boards and committees are functioning this way is completely accurate. I suspect we're going to hear from others who are on this call about that. Mark, what are your initial
Hollis,
thoughts?
do we want to clarify that then, that there's 3 boards meeting in person with the in-person option?
Yeah, well, I think what we need to do is recognize that there are some who are meeting with an in-person option. Some are meeting with a hybrid of the two. But anyways, Mark, what are your initial thoughts?
I agree with what Kelly and Chet have said so far. I think it's premature right now to come up with a motion or a directive from the board. I think we need to discuss it and debate it a little bit more. The material has been bought. We now own the material. So I see no reason why we cannot and should not be going virtual for the meetings, for the safety of everybody in town hall, for the safety of the members on the board, and everybody in general, to keep the COVID from spreading. So, I mean, my theory is to go virtual and to stay virtual.
All right, so let me just throw in my initial reaction. My initial reaction is we should encourage virtual meetings to the greatest extent possible. But I'm going to come up short on mandating that, which sounds like some people want to head in that direction. I think as long as we follow CDC and the state of New Hampshire guidelines, which talks about social distancing and wearing a mask, and the CDC guidance is very clear that wearing a mask is not a substitute for social distancing. It talks about wearing a mask and social distancing. So I think if there are certain boards and committees who would like to meet and they follow the CDC guidelines and they are appropriately distanced and they are wearing masks and we are providing hand sanitizers as well. So, we're doing everything that the CDC recommends. I'm not comfortable with going the next step and saying everybody must meet remotely. I don't think that's right. I think if there are boards and committees, again, who want to have folks come in person, as long as they follow the guidelines, that would be my preference. So I'm kind of with the hybrid approach to things. I'll go around again now that we've all had a chance to comment. Anybody want to have a second crack at commenting?
Well, I'd like to speak to the committee that I sit on, which is the planning board.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that is acting as a hybrid at this time, but technically, there are only 2 full-time members or elected members to that board that are participating at town hall. The rest of us are all going online, and it's by phone. So using that method by calling it on the phone is not nearly as good as this method as we're using now. That's my first statement. My second statement, Collis, would be we did come back in October, November, I don't remember. And as the chair, you made a decision that wasn't a good idea, and we went back to remote. So I kind of think this board is talking out of both sides of its mouth when we say, okay, we're going to go remote, but you guys don't have to. We don't think it's safe to be in the same room, but you guys are. So we're talking out of both sides of our mouth there. So if the chair is ready to stay, okay, select board members, we're ready to come back into town hall, then maybe there's a different way to look at it. But that was a decision that the board made, and I think it was sometime in October or November.
I guess I see it a little differently, Peter. I don't think we're talking about both sides of our mouth. I think we have, as a board, have made the decision that we want to conduct our meetings remotely. And that's fine. There's other boards, the planning board we're going to hear from. And I did watch the planning board meeting of the 17th, I believe it was, that was a hybrid. There were some in attendance. There were some on the phone participating remotely. My observations were it seemed to go fairly smoothly. Everybody who wanted to voice their opinions and participate in the meeting had an opportunity to, and it seemed to progress adequately. So, I think, and again, that's my position. And then I think that's what I'm going to hold to, because I don't want to mandate you must meet remotely, because that's not what the governor's office has said. That is not what the CDC has said. They said that you must follow the guidelines.
Can I follow up?
Yep, sure.
So if you watched the meeting, you saw that there was definitely some masks that weren't used properly. If you watch the meeting, I mean, if you need some pictures, I'll send them to you.
No, I watched it from start to finish, including the discussion about the wrestling match.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about mask.
I just want to tell you, I watched the whole thing.
Okay, so you saw that there were people not properly using their mask.
Well, I think that's a different issue. If they're not doing it properly, I think we can send out a message that if you're going to do it and you're going to meet in person, you have to follow the guidelines, and that includes proper use of masks. And I think it's up to the chairman of each of the committees and boards to assure that those people who are participating in person are maintaining proper use of their masks.
Okay, did we poll all the members of these committees or just the chairs?
I don't know, Derek, can you help out with that?
I did not poll all the members of these committees. Normally, when I do an agenda and a packet for a meeting, I have a distribution list that sends that out to all committee chairs. That went out yesterday afternoon, as I typically would do. I did reach out to Gail Lebrecht of the zoning board based on a request or a question she had of me, and I made her aware of what we had available for using the Microsoft Teams application. And she asked that Nancy Larson poll the zoning board members. But we did not poll planning board or sewer commission or any other committees in town. We only polled the zoning board members, and that was at the request of the zoning board chair.
But I think I heard you correctly, Derek. You said that you included all of the committee chair members on the announcement of this meeting so that they had the opportunity to participate if they so chose?
I did not. What I did is I sent out a copy of the agenda. I said that,
Okay.
the select board has a special meeting. You
Okay.
can find a copy of the agenda at this location. So that is how they were notified of the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Under what authority does it give the chair of the committee to make this decision?
I'm not suggesting the chair of any of the committees has any authority.
Well, I mean, so if you're going to poll somebody, wouldn't you have polled everybody to see what their feelings are? So I would say that as much as I'd like to listen to Gail and Tim and Barbara, unless we hear from the whole committee, chairman's job is to run a meeting. It's not to make decisions on life safety. And I think that's what we're talking about here is life safety. And I don't believe that the chairman should have that position or is even allowed to make that position. Their job as a chairman is I've chaired more than one committee in this town, and it's always been my duty to chair a meeting. And I don't think making life safety decisions is the proper way to go. I'm done with it. Let somebody else talk.
Yeah. Who else wants to weigh in? Another select board member? Another opportunity to maybe
Nope,
expand or?
I still stand what I said before, Collis. We can beat this to a dead horse all night, to be very honest with you. And whether we make the right decision or wrong decision, there are people here, this committee, that committee, that are going to be happy and are not going to be happy. So I'd like to move the question and let's.
So Mark, can you just refresh us? I think your original statement was that they should all be required to meet remotely. Do I have that right?
That's right. They should all be remotely.
Okay.
The town administrator spent a considerable amount of money, right, Derek? Correct me if I'm wrong. He spent some money.
So the teams, our rollout of teams was related to the board's decision on my recommendation and IT's recommendation last fall to make the move to Office 365. So I don't want to say that we spent a considerable amount of money to roll out Teams as we have. The only purchase that we have made separately is we do have a conference room TV with conference phone set up here that can be used.
Okay.
I mean, if we didn't have that stuff, I mean, what would we do? How would we do it? I mean, now that we have it, I mean, it's up to, I'm all set, Collins.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Chet, do you want to react to what we've heard so far?
Sure. Yeah, no, I will just reiterate that I think if we have, with transmission rates being so high, with variants, with the amount of actual people getting sick and death, if we have the option to go remote, currently we do, then I think we have a responsibility to do so. I do understand everything that everyone's talking about choice and all of those kinds of things, but in this case, we're not asking people to not attend a meeting. We're simply asking them to attend it using a different platform in order to maintain the safety of everyone around, including town hall employees, including presenters, including people on those boards. So I feel, if you can't tell, fairly strongly about the issue.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
Kelly,
Chair.
now that you've heard some initial comments, Kelly, do you want to add something additional?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I think that while I understand that there are boards who would prefer to be in person, I still agree with my initial statements. And, I heard Peter mention a potential date. I wonder if we could move that up and have everybody try it for us and come back with feedback. Is that we're gonna have everybody do this. And then, if there is something that comes up that prevents you from meeting remotely, IT has said that they will help everyone connect. And I'm not sure that we necessarily need to commit to 6 months of, without us checking back in. I value everybody's opinion. I am not sold on the fact, however, that there's a forcible reason that things need to be in person. But I would, however, like their feedback and participation in giving it a try at the very least, because I do feel strongly that it's important that we do as much as we possibly can.
Okay, thank you.
Collins, I think the date that Kelly's talking about I brought up was we take another, we do it until 7/1 and then review and see if it's worked or we need to make a change.
Yeah, I remember the 6 months
Right.
thing was thrown out. You suggested that, Peter. I remember. Yeah. Okay.
Maybe 2 or 3 months.
Collins?
Yep.
I understand where Peter's going, but I think May 1st would work just as well, to be honest with you. Whether it's better for us or not, but we're gonna drag this out again.
Yep.
6 or 7 months, and we're gonna deal with it for 6 or 7 months. If we can get it to May 1st and get it going, I think we'd be one step closer to, putting this thing to bed and making it work for us.
Yep.
Can I reply to Mark? Mark, my thing was that we instill it now, and then in July, we relook at it once all the people have been vaccinated and things like that, and see what the trend is on COVID, on the pandemic, and maybe take a look at eliminating or doing away with the remote. And my just to make sure everybody's clear, what I'm saying is we start the remotes as soon as we can get everybody lined up. And then in July, we take another look and see if it's still necessary. Is that what you understood, Mark?
I did, but I just wanted to shorten that period up a little bit, Peter. If the board is so inclined to go till July, fine. I think that we could get this to May and sell it now, like you said, and reevaluate it in May and go from there.
Okay, so a question I want to pose. So if we adopt this mandate, and that's what it's going to be, is a mandate, because they're going to say you are required to meet remotely. And somebody shows up at a planning board meeting, what action are we going to take? Not allow the meeting to go forward?
What do you mean show up, Collins? Like physically go to town hall?
Well, we know the planning board, we know the sewer commission, they like to have people in person at their meetings. And I'm just posing the question.
Well, wouldn't town hall be closed at that point in time?
Well, I don't know. That would clarify my question, I guess.
Collis, can I add to that a little bit?
Sure.
The way it is now, if somebody wants to come into a planning board meeting, we're notified ahead of time.
Yeah.
And then they'll sit in the parking lot and we'll call them in and say, okay, you can come in.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's a problem with somebody coming in to present. Now, saying that, if somebody wanted to come in and speak against something, the phone numbers are posted. I mean, if they're following the agenda, we always post a call-in number on it, just like our meeting. In the same vein, call us, what do we do for our meeting if somebody wants to come in? So, I mean, we're no different. Our board is no different. In fact, we have more, I feel we have more responsibility as the select board to the voters and all the citizens. And we haven't had that problem. So I don't think that would be a real big issue.
Maybe, maybe not. I also feel that, by mandating that, we're distancing ourselves. Sorry to use that word, probably not the best word to use, but from the public in general. And it kind of stands us back and says, we don't want you in our faces for whatever reasons. And I don't think that's good governance in general. But again, that's a personal opinion. Anyone else? Because I'm going to open it up to public comment. So I'm going to give select board members one last chance. Anything before I open it up? Okay, I'm going to open up to public comment. Derek, I know that you've got a letter as part of public comment. Could you read that into the record to start?
Yes, I can. This was an email that came in from Barbara Griffin, Chair of the Planning Board. She asked that it be read on her behalf this evening. I had a conversation with Peter about the new policy on meetings you are discussing tonight. I contact you in follow-up. Due to personal circumstances, I am unable to attend, so I ask the following be considered. I have never been notified that there is an issue with the conduct of planning board meetings. To date, I recall no comments or complaints from applicants, attendees, staff, or members as to procedures. While I start every meeting with the governor's instructions on remote meetings, I've never been asked to read or notify as to policies for safe conduct of the meetings. As to planning board meetings, I note that most applicants choose to come in person to the meeting, although remote is allowed. Certain members attend electronically, others come in person regularly. The recording secretary is there regularly because minutes are easier to produce when in person. I believe in-person attendance has a stronger impact. The substance and quality of a remote meeting is substantially different than in person. I have participated in many meetings electronically to include meetings as a committee member with hundreds in attendance. The electronic participation format, whether split or in total, works better in formats that are instructional, conference presenter type meetings. In my experience, electronic meetings result in longer individual remote participation. There are no restraints on talking from your kitchen table and less discussion and questions. I'm not aware of any COVID transmission traced to a planning board meeting or any meeting. It is unclear to me why you would do this when rates of COVID and its transmission are declining. Town Hall is open and has the same controls as meetings. A sign posted as to rules you are asked to comply with, and masks and sanitizer stations around the building. As a board, you are conducting town deliberative session in person, and again holding elections at the high school. Why meetings would now become an issue is a puzzle. It was brought to my attention that masks are occasionally pulled from the face during meetings, and that is true. If the board requires masks on all the time, that is fine and should simply be made clear. My own mask adjustment in a meeting is situational and not for long. I remind the board that the CDC requirements for safe contact are 6 feet social distancing or a mask. And of course, you all know that if you are in public eating out at a restaurant, once seated at a table, you can take your mask off. I suggest to you that there is no difference between a dining table and the table before members at a meeting. If the board has concerns that are grounded in a valid safety health concern, I suggest that board chairs be given specific instructions to read at the commencement of the meeting. If the board simply has concerns, we all have concerns. The reality is that more things are starting to be done in person again, and over the next months, even more things will be done in person. The risk of transmission is decreasing. The building itself is open for business. Now is not the time to make all meetings remote. Thank you, Barbara Griffin.
Thank you, Derek, for reading that into the record. I want to comment, just make one comment on what Barbara has said. She said, use the word social distancing or wearing a mask. I don't believe that's correct. I'm looking at the newhampshire.gov website with the frequently asked questions. And it talks about to avoid close contacts. When you're around others, everyone should be wearing a mask in public settings and with around people who don't live in your household, especially when social distancing measures are difficult to maintain. Then it goes on to say, the mask is not a substitute for social distancing. So wearing a mask, according to this guidance from CDC, does not mean you do not have to comply with social distancing. So I just wanted to clarify at least what I've researched prior to the meeting. Okay, so we've got other members of the public, including those from other committees and boards. So it's now opportunity for those people to make comments. So if you would raise your hand, if you know how to do that. Do we have anybody, Derek? I can't.
Yes, Gail has raised her hand.
Oh, hi, there you are, Gail. Sorry, I didn't see it. Hi, Gail.
Yeah, I'm here. Hi. I agree with everything that Barbara said. I think she's spot on. The ZBA also has never been notified of any wrongdoing as far as social distancing or mask wearing, and those who want to participate in person, I'm sure would comply if they realized what they were doing or were told what they were doing. The other concern that I have is that applicants, I guess my suggestion is if we were to continue to have in-person meetings for the board, that maybe an option would be that the only one allowed in the room would be the applicant, and anybody else would have to call in. Applicants for the zoning board and planning board are different because many of them have significant plans, and it's much easier for them, and they do prefer to come in to show their plans to the board. So besides what Barbara said, that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Gail. Someone else? I don't see any of the hands up. There is an option to raise your hand. If you go down to the bottom of your screen, you'll see a raise your hand. If you click on that, I can see you and I can recognize you to provide comments. So if you want to comment, if you just raise your hand so I know who you are.
I think the only other member from the public on this evening is Tim Redman.
Okay.
I don't know if, Tim, if you can hear us. I don't know if you want to speak or if you have the option to, if you're calling in.
I do, Derek, if I could, please. So good evening to everyone present, and thanks for the opportunity to speak. I would like to support the current in-person and dial-in meeting hybrid that we've been using since the pandemic affected our ability to have our regular meetings. I'm speaking as a citizen and as the Sewer Commission Chairman and a Planning Board member. I have some prepared notes so I can be as brief as possible. The Sewer Commission and the Planning Board have been conducting hybrid meetings that are following CDC recommendations by using face masks, combined with social distancing and disinfecting surfaces between all applicants. To my knowledge, no one has been infected as a result of our recent past meetings. Just a few points I'd like to make. It's my opinion that applicants like to make their presentations in person because it's more effective and it's easier than trying to achieve the same result via completely remote meetings. In the case of abutter notifications, some older residents who would normally appear to speak in person about an application do not or may not have the computer skills or the willingness to participate. This would be unfair to them and to the process. I'm of the opinion that boards and commissions that require plans or multiple plan sets should continue to meet in the hybrid fashion to make sure that some or all board members can actually view the plans up close and in person to see all the aspects of a plan, and also be able to relay information to the remote members as they cannot see those plans. We've made it safely here through the meetings in March. And now that things have improved and vaccinations are being distributed, I would strongly suggest that the select board allow meetings to continue as they have been operating. It seems late in the game to consider changing all meetings to remote meetings. Thank you all for letting me speak tonight.
Thank you for sharing your comments with us, Tim. Appreciate you taking the time and the effort to do that. Anyone else? Anyone at all? I don't see any hands raised. Is there anyone other than select board members who'd like to provide public comment at this point? Okay, I don't see any, so we're going to move along. That wraps up that item. If we want to take action on it, now would be the time to make a motion. And if someone wants to make the motion, I'd certainly entertain that.
I'll make a motion that we go to remote meetings effective February 15th. That gives everybody a chance to get on board and learn how to use it, and have a review of it at June 1st.
Peter, could you clarify what you mean when you say we go to remote meetings? I think
The town of Goffstown go to remote meetings.
all boards and commissions?
Yes.
Okay, just want to be clear.
I'll second that.
Okay, so the motion is made by Peter and it was seconded by Chet. And this is going to be a requirement that all boards and commissions conduct their meetings virtually. Any discussion on the motion? I think we've had quite a bit of discussion already, but it's certainly proper procedure to ask for discussion on the motion now that it's been made. Don't see any discussion, then I'll move the question. So, Peter, could you just state the timeline again? What was it? What was your motion for how many months?
Till June 1st.
Till June 1st. Okay.
That was a split between me and Mark. Mark wanted it the first. So I'm trying to be a mediator here, Mark.
That's all right.
Okay. Everybody understands the motion. I'm going to call the roll. Kelly?
I vote yes.
Thank you. Peter?
Yes.
Thank you. Mark?
Yes, sir.
And thank you. And Chet?
Yes.
Thank you. As chairman, I'm going to vote no, but the motion carries 4-1. Where do we go from here? Now we have to put out some sort of guidance. Derek, we need to make everybody aware of the action that we just took.
I will advise all chairs and vice chairs of this decision. I did consult with the land use office today about upcoming zoning board meeting on February 9th, as well as the planning board meeting on February 11th. Because they've been providing the call-in information, that would not impact whether or not they go remote. We are bridging over the teleconference line to these team meetings. And then I will leave it to the discretion of the chairs that whether or not they want to use Teams or if they just simply want to do it by telephone only. And this, as I understood the motion made by Selectman Georganis, this would be effective February 15th through June 1st.
I believe
That would
that's
be
right.
correct. And that June 1st date was something that we're going to just take a look at, review, and see if it's still necessary with all the COVID vaccines that are out there. I mean, you know, it could be a real drop in the pandemic, and we may want to be able to go back to a full board meetings with public involved, which you know, if we have the opportunity, we should in the future.
Yeah, I agree, Peter. I think it's a great idea to revisit this. A lot's going to change. This is evolving day by day, so a lot's going to happen between now and 3 months and 6 months or whatever down the road. So, absolutely. So, Derek, you're going to put out some guidance and some direction.
Yes,
for
yes.
board commissions.
Yep.
Okay. That was the only item on the agenda. We do have one item to take up in non-public. Is there any other business to come before the board in this public portion of our meeting? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to go into non-public. I don't have the.
I don't have the RSA that we're going under non-public on, but I'll make the motion that we go into non-public on the RSA. Derek, take over.
It's for hiring.
91A3, comma 2, B, hiring.
I'll second.
Thank you. A motion and a second to go into non-public session. I'll just call a roll. I vote yes. Kelly,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Mark,
Yep.
and Chet.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes to 5-0 to go into non-public session. Thanks to folks who maybe took the time to tune in and watch the proceedings tonight. I appreciate that. This concludes the public portion of our meeting. We're going to go into non-public session. Have a good evening. Stay safe. Stay healthy.